Aloha and welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to talk about executing modules as scripts. So in previous examples, I showed you how we could create a module. I think I called mine do nothing. And in do nothing, we had a function. I think we had a variable name defined. Sometimes when you're working on a bunch of code, you have different functions and you have statements that are going to be in there as well. And you're initially thinking that, hey, this is going to be, just code that a script that I run in general. And then later on, you're like, wow, there's a lot of great functionality in here. And I want to, let's say I want to use this in other things. Let's, allow it to be imported as a module. So at that point, whatever code that you had executing at the global scope, at the global level, the top level there, not the definitions that you have, but the actual statements, they're going to run when you call on this. So we need a way to kind of render that inert in a way. So there's a way of doing that. And let me go ahead and share my screen here with you, and we'll bring that up. So when you're dealing with modules, you have this, you have an attribute pardon me, you have an attribute. It's the dunder name attribute, and I'll show you that in just a second. But first thing to recall is when we're importing a module, what happens is on import, it's actually executing the entire file. So it's executing that. That means it's entering into memory all the variables and the function definitions, but it's also executing the code that you find in there that's at the top level. So if we look at our do nothing function here, we have this definition that's set up, but we also have this assignment here, the no number equals 10. So this assignment is being run as well. And let's say we were to do something after that. Let's say that part of it was going to be, we're going to call nothing itself. So if we run it here, we're going to have it say, it's going to run this thing and say, I will not, blah, blah, blah. So if we come over to here, and we do an import of do nothing, then when we import do nothing, we're not going to call anything. We're just importing it alone. When we hit the run here, it's going to say, I will not do anything. And that's because when it imports this, it executes everything. And it's executing this nothing. Well, that's really not something we'd want to do if we were importing this and we just want to be able to call that functionality on our own. So we've got to have a way to work around that. So what we really need to, what we're really looking for is some way of knowing what if what we're executing is executing it or if it's importing it. And the way we find this out is we check this attribute called the dunder name. It's the underscore underscore name underscore underscore that gets appended to the module. So let me go ahead and show you what that looks like. So let's see here. Actually, we're going to start out here in the do nothing. And instead of, all right, so let's say this nothing is what we don't want to call right here. So we're going to go here. We're going to say if underscore underscore name underscore underscore equals main, or actually not main, it's underscore underscore main, then we're going to run this code. So what we're doing here is we're saying, hey, look at name, which is the it's the attribute that's appended to a module, and it basically tells. It normally should be if it's being if your program is being run, if your interpreter is running the program directly, the name attribute is going to be main because it's running as the main program. If it's being imported, it actually becomes not main. It's going to take on the name of the module itself. So let's just go ahead and let me comment that out for now, and also comment out nothing. Let me show you this way. We're going to print out what name looks like here, and this will give you a better understanding of it. So if we print out name, the attribute, we're going to get main here. And the reason we're getting main here is because the attribute for name is main when you're calling the thing directly. But if we're importing it as a module, what's going to happen is we're importing it. It's going to append the attribute of the attribute name is going to get the name of the module, which will be do nothing. So before we call this directly, we get main. But now if we call it as a module import, you're going to see something totally different. Watch this. So see, it's do nothing. Do nothing is the name of the module. So it knows that it's being imported as a module. So that attribute of dunder name gets assigned to the name of the module when it's being imported. And that's how we can differentiate whether or not something is being run alone as a script or if it's being run as something that's imported. So the way we use that is in the module here, we have our definitions and everything, and then we go here and we say something to the effect of, let's see, let's take this. So if this is code that we only want to execute if we're running this script standalone, we would say if name equals main. And you've seen this in some of the zyBook's lessons. You'll have seen in some of the challenges where it said if name equals main. And what they're doing there is they're checking to see if you're running it as the programmer as an include. So I had questions about that, and that's what that was referring to. So in our module here, we're saying if dunder name equals main, meaning we're running this thing directly, then we're going to call on nothing here. If we're not, if we're just importing this, then we want to leave that out. We don't want this executed. So that's how we keep that from executing. So we can put all the code that we don't want to run when people are importing it just to get the functionality, the variables or whatever else. We put all that stuff into this conditional if name equals main. So yeah, so this is a really useful function. And the reason that we have that, or not function, but attribute, and the reason we have that attribute is to determine whether or not we're importing this file or we're running it directly. And by checking for it, we can prevent it from running functionality that we don't want it to when we're simply importing it to get access to the functions and the variables. So hopefully this is not too complicated. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to ask me. Send me an email. Set up a one-on-one session for Zoom if you like. I'll be happy to get together with you and chat about that. But otherwise, hang in there and I'll see you in the next lesson.